the player of the game with an astonishing game. 4 for 4. Let's hear it. How are you feeling the ball today?
Feeling locked in. Been feeling locked in all season. Just trying to help my teammates, pass it on, get a great team win.
4 for 4, 2 home runs, 2 singles, and he had a big hit, bases loaded, 2 outs. Have a night, Roman Anthony.
This is the number 1 prospect in all of Major League Baseball right now, Roman Anthony, and not even 3 years ago, he was a high school senior playing for the Stoneman Douglas Eagles in Parkland, Florida, and the clip you just watched is of him having maybe the best day of his career. Anthony went 4 for 4 with 2 home runs, 6 RBI, scored 3 runs, and did all of this in just 4 offensive innings of baseball after the Eagles would run rule Westminster Christian 12-0 in 5 innings. A career day for almost anyone, but just not Roman Anthony. See, it would only take 3 weeks for him to have another eerily similar game, going 3 for 4 this time with a double, 2 more home runs, and 7 RBI in again just 4 offensive innings of baseball for the Eagles, as they would rout West Boca Raton 15-0 by the 5th. 2 games after that, another 2 for 3 game with a home run for Anthony. The very next game, 2 for 3 with, again, you guessed it, a home run for Anthony. So let me pose this question: can any day really be a career-defining performance for somebody who has the ability to top it anytime they take the field? And when you finish your senior year as well as Roman Anthony did, that's precisely what happened over and over again. That final year in the 2021-22 season playing for the Eagles, Anthony would bat .520 with a .589 on-base percentage, a .980 slugging percentage, good for a .1569 OPS, with 10 home runs and 25 extra base hits in just 32 games, being named the 2022 Florida State Player of the Year and leading Stoneman Douglas to their 2nd consecutive Florida High School 7A state championship. But this is only the beginning of our story that would lead Roman Anthony to becoming maybe the best prospect in the history of the Red Sox franchise. The Red Sox have a long and storied history of outstanding players to come up through their minor league system, from former MVPs in Mookie Betts, Dustin Pedroia, and Mo Vaughn, to regular all-stars in Nomar Garciaparra, Xander Bogaerts, and Rafael Devers. While all of them would make their marks in the major leagues, not one of these players would ever be listed as the number 1 overall prospect, and only Xander Bogaerts would crack the top 5, peaking at number 2 on MLB Pipeline's 2014 rankings. In fact, the Red Sox have only had 1 prospect in their team's history ever start the season ranked number 1 overall on MLB Pipeline, and that was Andrew Benintendi in the 2017 edition. And even if you include Baseball America's rankings, that only adds 1 more player in Daisuke Matsuzaka on their 2007 edition. Both Benintendi and Matsuzaka represent a cautionary tale when projecting young prospects and international signees, as while both developed into established major league caliber players, neither consistently reached the lofty expectations placed upon them of being bestowed the number 1 prospect in the sport. Roki Sasaki recently supplanted Roman Anthony on MLB Pipeline's number 1 spot after signing with the Dodgers, and many expect him to follow in the success of fellow countryman Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but the same was said for Matsuzaka nearly 18 years ago. Modern analytics have advanced these projections significantly since that time, but as always, no one can ever be sure, but it is getting closer. Since 2018, every number 1 overall prospect on MLB Pipeline has made a considerable impact at the major league level. In fact, in between 2018 and 2023, of the 15 players who have been ranked inside the top 3 on MLB Pipeline, you could argue that nearly 3/4 of them have met or exceeded the weight of the massive expectations that come with those rankings. Among the 11 players in that category, 5 of them won Rookie of the Year, 9 of them have won a Silver Slugger Award, and every single one of them have made at least 1 All-Star game. So what is it that makes Roman Anthony so special to be in this elite group of prospects, and how likely is it that he could be the next great Red Sox star?
Pick of the 2022 Major League Draft, the Boston Red Sox select Roman Anthony, an outfielder from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, Parkland, Florida.
After Roman Anthony was drafted out of Stoneman Douglas High School on July 29, 2022, 79th overall, he made his pro debut less than 2 weeks later and played 10 games in the Florida Coast League, where he impressed with his bat-to-ball skills as he went 15 for 35, good for a .429 batting average and striking out just 4 times, before wrapping up the season at Single-A Salem in another 10-game sample size. Even though he struggled a bit at that level, he still showed a solid approach with a high contact rate in that brief taste of professional baseball. The following year, Anthony would head into into his first full season in 2023 ranked as just the number 10 prospect in the Red Sox system by MLB Pipeline, and his stats on paper early on in that year were less than encouraging to say the least. In 42 games at Single-A to start the year, Anthony would bat just .228 with a .693 OPS and just a single home run. But the Red Sox saw something through his stats that showed that he was only a tweak away from breaking out. Josh Norris of Baseball America wrote prior to his promotion that Anthony's numbers this season may not jump off the page, but scouts who have seen him believe the ingredients are there for a potentially special player. He has a gorgeous swing from the left side, an outstanding knowledge of the strike zone, and raw power that belies his meager slugging output this year at Low A Salem. Around that same time, Red Sox Director of Pro Scouting Brian Abraham said, "If you can have those foundational areas as a hitter and you hit the ball hard, you'd like to think that it would eventually lead to more baseball card type success versus some of the back end numbers that he's shown." This faith that the Red Sox had in Roman Anthony's analytics and makeup as a player is what led the Red Sox to promoting him to High A on June 13th, 2023, and it would immediately be rewarded. In 54 games at High A that year, Anthony blossomed into one of the best players in the South Atlantic League as he would bat .294 with a .412 on base percentage, a .569 slugging percentage, and a .981 OPS and hit 12 home runs. Something also important to note is that Anthony was doing all of this while being just 19 years old, over 3 years younger than the average competition at that level. With just a few weeks left in the season, the Red Sox made the decision to promote Roman Anthony once again to Double-A Portland, where in a 10-game sample size he dominated, batting .343 with a .1020 OPS, and still continuing to show that great patience at the plate with 8 walks against just 6 strikeouts. On Baseball America's Top 100 rankings after the 2023 season, they wrote, "Roman Anthony is the only hitter under 28 years old in the minor leagues to meet the following thresholds: a 90th percentile exit velocity of 105 miles per hour or higher, a contact rate of above 74%, and an in-zone contact rate of 83% or higher, and a chase rate of 20% or below." And while that might be cherry-picking some stats, the point is pretty clear at face value. Roman Anthony hits the ball extremely hard, extremely well, and doesn't swing and miss. Speaking on the rise of his son after the 2023 season, Roman Anthony's father said that once he got to Greenville, he was a different person. And it's not hard to see why when you look at his statistics that season laid out. And while we're on the topic of Roman's father, I think it's this point in the video that I am legally required to mention to you that his first name is Anthony, meaning that his legal name is Anthony Anthony, which is the same name of Roman's older brother, Anthony Anthony, and also his grandfather, Anthony Anthony. When Roman was asked if he felt any pressure to name his son Anthony, he was quoted as saying, "My kid will not be named Anthony Anthony. I'm not going to put him through that." As Roman looked towards the 2024 season, in just an 18-month span, he had gone from playing high school baseball on Anthony Rizzo Field in Parkland, Florida, to now being the second best prospect in the Red Sox system and the number 24 overall prospect on MLB Pipeline. But this was only the beginning of the breakout for the 19-year-old phenom.
More nuggets on this guy.
Wow, so he hit, by the way, the longest home run I've ever seen in the high school All-American game. And Roman Anthony's just hitting bombs.
Bombs!
Like a 460 footer, so the power is legit.
Fair ball.
Oh, this is what people are used to seeing, and he's got a chance to be a really special hitter.
This is big-time power.
Heading into his age 20 season, Roman began the year at Double-A and much like the previous year, began the year slow statistically. Over his first 41 games of the year, Anthony would bat just .243 with a .757 OPS and only 3 home runs. Not terrible numbers, but far from what you would expect from a top prospect in the sport. Yet again though, the Red Sox front office was not concerned and neither was Roman Anthony. When asked about his numbers, Roman Anthony said, "I don't really look at the way that I perform as much as I look at my process. There's always room to get better. I've been hitting the ball harder and taking better at-bats as the year goes on. I think it's just a matter of seeing more pitching." These comments come from a mindset that is far beyond his years for a player his age. Former teammate and close friend Kyle Teal said maturity-wise, Roman is way above his birthday. He's just always so steady, he's never up or down, he's always in the middle no matter how he's doing. Marcelo Mayer, who was supplanted as the #1 Red Sox prospect by Anthony, was quoted as saying, "The way that he goes about his business, the way that he acts in the clubhouse, the way that he plays the game, you almost forget that he's 19 because he's just so mature. It's really special to see someone that young be doing that in Double-A." That word maturity is something that is repeated over and over again by almost every single person who is able to interact with Roman Anthony. So it should come no surprise when I tell you that even after the slow start, he soon began to completely dominate Double-A pitching. Over the next 43 games, Anthony would bat .291 with a .369 on-base percentage, a .571 slugging, and a .940 OPS, crushing 12 home runs and showing a bit on the base pass by stealing 11 bases while only being caught once. That aspect of his speed is not necessarily a calling card for him, but it isn't a detriment either, as he shows good instincts on the base pass and in the field. Where he more than makes up for his average speed is in his ability to read the ball in the outfield and his above-average throwing arm, which has allowed him to start in 156 games in center field to just 48 in the corner outfield spots in his minor league career. And while he may be destined to end up in one of those corner outfield spots due to the elite defense the Red Sox currently have on their big league roster, he would be more than capable to stay in center field if needed. After 84 games at Double-A in 2024, the Red Sox once again promoted Roman Anthony on August 12th to Triple-A Worcester, making him the youngest player in 46 years to debut at that level for the Red Sox, and the first 20-year-old since Xander Bogaerts made the jump in 2013. It was in this 35-game sample size to wrap up the 2024 season where Roman Anthony solidified himself as the #1 prospect in baseball. Over 131 at-bats, Roman batted .344 with a .463 on-base percentage, a .519 slugging percentage, good for a .983 OPS, and walked 31 times compared to just 31 strikeouts. These are outstanding numbers for anyone, but even more eye-popping when you remember that he was maybe the best player every time he took the field at AAA last year, while being just 20 years old, over 6 years younger than the average player at that level. One of the most shockingly impressive statistics about Anthony's 2024 season was this home run that he hit during his time in Double-A Portland that you're watching on your screen right now, the first of 2 home runs that day. What makes this one special is that he hit the ball 116 miles per hour off the bat, which was the hardest hit ball of anyone in the Red Sox organization in 2024, including the major leagues. In fact, that ball was hit so hard that only 15 major league ball players in 2024 hit a ball harder at any point the whole year. And all of those names look pretty familiar, and again, I cannot state this point enough. He is only 20 years old. That feat for somebody his age is just not normal, even by elite prospect standards. And to add one final tidbit to this point, if you're wondering who the 16th guy on that list that Roman Anthony just beat out was, well, Met fans are about to get to know the guy pretty well for the next decade or two. Better luck next year, Juan. It's that power and hit tool that also led Anthony to being crowned the first ever champion of the Future Skills Showcase on July 13th, where he beat out 7 other elite prospects in Arlington, Texas during the 2024 All-Star Game festivities. Since the start of his minor league career, Roman Anthony's hit tool has been praised over and over again, but it's not just the ability to hit the ball that makes him special, it's his ability to not swing at bad pitches that takes him over the top. In the 2023 season, Anthony had a 17.5% walk rate. The only major league player with a higher rate in that year was Juan Soto, and in 35 games at AAA last year, Anthony took that 17.5% walk rate even higher up to 18.9%, which would have tied the major league lead in 2024 with Aaron Judge. So how did this happen? How did Roman Anthony go from a late second round pick to the #1 prospect in baseball in less than 2 years?
I think so. I mean, he led the Double-A Eastern League in ops. I think it was 856 as a 20-year-old.
20 is the number that really stands out to me.
I think this guy is just beginning to tap in to his home runs.
And he just has kept getting better and better and better.
It's the power, it's the feel to hit, it's the chance that he could play center field. That all makes him the best offensive prospect in baseball.
Really make you open your eyes. Wow, the Red Sox have Roman Anthony.
Almost 5 years ago, Willie Romay, a scout for the Boston Red Sox, was visiting Stoneman Douglas High School when a tall, lanky sophomore approached him and asked him what he could do to get better as a ball player. After giving some advice, he would leave that day and put it out of his mind. But 3 weeks later, Romay returned and took notice that not only did that sophomore already look more polished as a hitter, but he had taken every single piece of advice that he had given and remade his entire swing in that time frame. That was the moment that a 16-year-old Roman Anthony landed on the radar of the Boston Red Sox, as they had just identified some of the most important qualities that can be found in a young player: a burning passion to get better and a work ethic to back it up. That work ethic was instilled in him at an early age by his parents. From the time that Roman and his siblings were just children, they did everything they could to make sure that athletics were a primary focus in their children's upbringing, even going so far as to enroll them into larger schools in order to face tougher competition, which would eventually lead to Roman Anthony spending most of his summers after junior and senior year training in Stillwater, Oklahoma, with some of the most impressive young ball players in baseball, the Holliday family. It was that same draft year as Jackson Holliday went #1 overall to the Baltimore Orioles editorials that Roman Anthony was selected 79th overall by the Boston Red Sox. Even though 77 players separated the two in the 2022 draft, it only took months after Jackson graduated after being named the top prospect in baseball that Roman Anthony found himself in the exact same position. How did this happen? How did the Red Sox do this? How did Boston take a second-round compensation pick that they got after losing Eduardo Rodriguez in free agency and turn him into the best prospect in baseball, and maybe their best prospect ever? Some people may just call it luck. After all, the previously mentioned Mookie Betts only peaked at number 62 on MLB Pipeline after being drafted in the 5th round 172nd overall, and became a generational type player and a surefire Hall of Famer. Maybe Boston simply develops better than their competitors. Christian Campbell is another huge prospect for the Red Sox right now at number 7 overall on MLB Pipeline, and there is a pretty vocal group of analysts who even suggest he should be ranked as the best prospect in baseball over even Roman Anthony, and he was drafted just 132nd overall in the 4th round in 2023. The Red Sox do deserve a lot of credit when it comes to their heavy focus on bat speed within the organization recently, and in many ways are probably ahead of the curve in developing talent with that as a focus. There are plenty of reasons you could point to as being the primary reason for Anthony's ascension, and any one of them will have some degree of truth, but I think it boils back to what Willie Romay discovered about Anthony's makeup, his baseball IQ, and his innate desire to be the best there is as to why he's done all that he's accomplished. It's how a 16-year-old ball player was able to change his entire approach at the plate in less than a month in order to be better after just a few words of advice. And it's a big part as to why Roman Anthony was given a $2.5 million bonus after being selected 79th overall, even though that was a number that was bigger than 50 of the 78 players drafted ahead of him. It was a bigger number than what 12 first-round picks got, even though Anthony was the second to last pick in the 2nd round. And it was bigger than what the Red Sox themselves gave to the 2 picks they took before selecting Anthony. Right before the 2022 MLB draft, former head of baseball operations for the Red Sox, Chaim Bloom, was interviewed about his process heading into the draft, and gave this quote after being asked the question, "How does it feel when you get to your pick and the player you want is still there?" It's really exciting. There are definitely some picks that fire up your room more than others. That's why you put all of this energy into the process. And when that happens, the credit is due to all the people who put the work into that player to lead you to trust that work and make a good decision. It's a multi-year process to put a player in position to be a Red Sox draft pick. This is the final piece of evidence that I'm submitting as to how Roman Anthony was able to develop into the best prospect in baseball. Because in some ways, I think the Red Sox simply knew what they had better than their competitors. And that all started with an assertive 16-year-old kid just trying to get better and a scout who believed in him maybe a little bit more than his peers. It's how Roman Anthony has become the only player selected outside of the top 50 picks in the MLB draft to be featured as even a top 5 prospect by MLB Pipeline in the past 13 years. It's how that, according to Keith Law, that Roman Anthony has developed into showing the potential to being a 30 home run, high average, high on base percentage guy in right field, with plus defense there, which is a best player in the league profile. And it's why that Roman Anthony, during his first big league spring training, has not only reached base in all 6 of his games so far, but has a 500 on base percentage in the process, which is the highest mark out of any Red Sox player with more than 6 at-bats. So the league better take notice, because the Roman Empire is about to land in Boston, and it won't be stopping in New England. It's coming for the entire league.
Made a name for yourself at Coors for 450. Your furthest today was 471. Do you realize how far you were hitting it?
No, I didn't realize how far I was hitting it. I was just trying to hit it over the fence.
As a Red Sox fan, you should be unbelievably excited that Roman Anthony is going to be a part of this team, a future frontman piece of a Red Sox championship team. That's how good this guy could be.
I think that's the goal. When you get drafted, is to put yourself in this position and as quickly as you can to get to big league camp and to possibly win a job and help this team as soon as possible.